The Galactic Council had existed for 12,000 years. In that time, they had cataloged over 300 sentient species across the known galaxy. Each species had its role, its purpose, its unchanging nature. The Velthari were warriors bred for combat across 10,000 generations. The Mindori were thinkers, their entire civilization built around pure scientific pursuit. The Krelliks were traders and the Sanathi were diplomats. This was the natural order. This was how the galaxy worked. Then the humans arrived. Ambassador Zeltrix of the Sanathi stood before the council chamber, his 4 arms folded in the traditional gesture of concern. His silver skin reflected the blue light of the great assembly hall as he addressed the gathered representatives. "We have monitored the human delegation for 3 standard cycles," Zeltrix said, "and I must report something most unusual, something that defies all classification protocols." High Counselor Vorn, an ancient Mindori whose crystalline body pulsed with accumulated knowledge, leaned forward. "Explain, Ambassador, what troubles you about these newcomers?" "Everything, Counselor, absolutely everything." The chamber fell silent. Zeltrix was known for his calm nature, his diplomatic precision. To hear such words from him sent ripples of unease through the assembled representatives. "When the human vessel first appeared in our space," Zeltrix continued, "we followed standard contact procedures. We sent a greeting and asked them to identify their ship's purpose and crew composition. They responded that their ship, the Endeavor, was a scientific research vessel. The crew consisted of 47 scientists, 12 soldiers for security, and 8 diplomatic staff." "That seems reasonable," Counselor Vorn observed. "What is the concern?" "The concern, Counselor, is what happened next." Zeltrix activated the holographic display at the center of the chamber. Images began to play, recorded by Sanathi observation drones. 3 days into their visit, the human vessel encountered a Razeth raiding party near the outer rim. The Razeth, as we all know, are pirates who prey upon scientific vessels. They attacked without warning. The images showed the human ship, surrounded by 6 Razeth warships. Plasma fire lit up the void of space. "We expected the humans to flee or surrender. They were scientists, after all, research personnel. Instead," Zeltrix paused, his silver features shifting to express deep confusion. "Instead, the scientists fought." The hologram showed human scientists abandoning their research stations and moving with practiced efficiency to weapon stations. A woman in a white laboratory coat was shown calculating firing solutions while simultaneously returning fire. A man who had been cataloging mineral samples moments before was now coordinating shield rotations with the precision of a veteran commander. Dr. Sarah Chen, their chief biologist, personally disabled 2 Razeth vessels using a modified research probe that she weaponized in approximately 4 minutes, Zeltrix reported. Dr. Marcus Webb, their lead geologist, used mining charges intended for asteroid sampling to destroy a 3rd. The remaining Razeth ships retreated. Murmurs spread through the council chamber. "Perhaps they were soldiers pretending to be scientists," suggested War Chief Kreth of the Velthari, his scarred mandibles clicking with interest. "A deception common among prey species." "That was our initial assumption as well," Zeltrix said. "We investigated thoroughly. Dr. Chen has published over 200 peer-reviewed papers on xenobiology. Dr. Webb has discovered 3 new elements. These are genuine scientists with decades of research credentials, yet they fought like warriors born." "Impossible," War Chief Kreth declared. "One is either a warrior or one is not. Combat requires a lifetime of training, a warrior's mindset from youth. Scientists cannot simply become fighters." "And yet they did, but that is not the most disturbing part of my report." Zeltrix changed the holographic display. Now it showed a different scene, a diplomatic meeting between human representatives and the hostile Korthani Empire. 2 weeks after the Razeth incident, The human delegation was asked to assist with negotiations. The Korthani had been threatening war against 3 council systems. Our Sanathi diplomats had failed to reach any agreement after months of talks. The humans sent their military attaché, a woman named Colonel Miranda Stone. A soldier, High Counselor Vorn asked, conducting diplomacy. Yes, Colonel Stone spent 40 years in the human military, fighting in what they call ground wars. She has killed in combat. She has commanded troops in battle. She is, by any reasonable definition, a warrior. The hologram showed Colonel Stone sitting across from the Korthani delegation. She was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Colonel Stone resolved the Korthani situation in 6 hours, Zeltrix said flatly. 6 hours after we had failed for months. She spoke to them of honor, of the cost of war, of legacy. She understood their warrior culture because she shared it, but she also understood the value of peace, the wisdom of compromise. She was both warrior and diplomat simultaneously. This cannot be, War Chief Kreth said, rising from his seat. A warrior's path and a diplomat's path are opposites. One cannot walk both roads. The humans can, Zeltrix replied. And they do. They do it constantly without apparent effort. Their scientists become warriors when needed. Their warriors become diplomats when required. They shift between roles as easily as changing clothes. High Counselor Vorn's crystalline body flickered with patterns of deep thought. This is unprecedented. Our entire classification system, our understanding of species roles, depends on the assumption that beings are born to specific purposes. The Velthari cannot become scientists. The Mindori cannot become warriors. Yet you suggest humans can become anything. I suggest nothing, Counselor. I report only what I have observed, and there is more. Zeltrix brought up another series of images. These showed various human crew members aboard the Endeavour in different situations. Lieutenant James Ockhaffer, assigned as a security officer. We observed him spending his off-duty hours conducting advanced research into quantum field theory. He has since submitted a paper to the Mindori Science Academy that they describe as groundbreaking. Meanwhile, Dr. Elizabeth Frost, their senior physicist, was observed training in combat techniques with the security team. When I asked her why a scientist would learn to fight, she seemed confused by the question. She said, "Why wouldn't I?" The chamber erupted in confused discussion. Representatives from dozens of species tried to process what they were hearing. The fundamental assumptions upon which galactic civilization was built were being challenged. War Chief Kreth pushed through the crowd to stand before the holographic display. "Show me the combat footage again, the battle with the Razeth." Zeltrix complied. The Velthari warrior watched with his 4 eyes, taking in every detail. "Their movements," Kreth said slowly. "They are not trained warriors, you are correct. Their stances are wrong, their timing is imperfect, but they adapt, they learn, they improve even as the battle progresses. By the end of the engagement, they fight almost as well as junior Velthari soldiers." He turned to face the council. "This should not be possible. Combat skill requires years of dedicated training. These scientists learned in minutes." "That is the human phenomenon," Zeltrix said. "They are not the best warriors in the galaxy. They are not the best scientists. They are not the best diplomats. But they can be adequate at all 3 simultaneously. They can switch between roles instantly, and they seem to view this ability as completely normal." High Counselor Vorn rose, his ancient form crackling with energy. "We must learn more about these humans. Their adaptability could change everything we understand about intelligent life, or it could make them the most dangerous species we have ever encountered." "Perhaps both," Zeltrix said quietly. "Perhaps both at once, because that is what humans seem to do. They are everything all at the same time." The council fell into troubled silence as the implications settled over them like a dark cloud. They had spent 12,000 years building a galaxy of specialists, of beings who knew their place and their purpose. Now they faced a species that refused to be categorized, that could not be predicted, that changed what they were based on what they needed to be. The humans had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same again. Dr. Sarah Chen had never expected to kill anyone. Growing up in a small town in northern Canada, she had dreamed of studying alien life, of making first contact, of understanding the biology of creatures from distant worlds. She had spent 20 years earning degrees, publishing papers, and building a reputation as one of Earth's foremost xenobiologists. Not once during those years had she imagined herself at a weapons console, targeting enemy ships. Yet here she was, 2 days after the Razeth attack, still unable to wash the experience from her mind. She sat in the Endeavor's observation lounge, watching the stars drift past. The ship was currently docked at Station Nexus 7, one of the Galactic Council's diplomatic outposts. Outside the viewport, vessels from a dozen different species came and went, their designs as varied as the life forms that crewed them. "You're thinking too hard again." Sarah turned to find Colonel Miranda Stone standing in the doorway. The military commander held 2 cups of coffee, one of which she offered to Sarah. "Thanks," Sarah said, accepting the cup. "How can you tell?" "Because I've seen that look before, on soldiers after their first real combat." Miranda sat down across from her. "You're processing, trying to reconcile who you thought you were with what you did." "I killed people," Sarah said quietly. "Living beings with families and hopes and futures. I calculated firing solutions like I was analyzing cell samples, and I watched their ships explode. They were attacking us. They would have killed everyone on board if they'd won. Slavers like the Razeth don't leave survivors." "I know, logically I know, but I'm a scientist, Colonel. I'm supposed to study life, not end it." Miranda took a long sip of her coffee before responding. "Can I tell you something about myself? Something I don't share often." Sarah nodded. "Before I was a soldier, I wanted to be a poet." Sarah blinked. Of all the things she had expected the hardened colonel to say, that wasn't among them. A poet. Surprised, most people are. When I was 17, I won a national prize for a collection of sonnets about autumn in New England. My teachers said I had a genuine gift. They expected me to study literature, to become a professor or a writer. Miranda smiled at the memory. "Then the colony wars started and I enlisted instead. I thought it would just be for a few years. That was 4 decades ago." "Do you regret it, choosing the military over poetry?" "I didn't choose one over the other. That's what the aliens don't understand about us. I'm still a poet. I still write sonnets when I have time, but I'm also a soldier, and apparently I'm now a diplomat too after that business with the Korthani." Miranda leaned forward. "Sarah, you're still a scientist. What happened with the Razeth doesn't change that. It just means you're also capable of defending yourself and others when necessary. That's not a contradiction. That's being human." Before Sarah could respond, the ship's communication system activated. "Dr. Chen, Colonel Stone, please report to the main conference room. Ambassador Zeltrix has requested an urgent meeting." The 2 women exchanged glances and made their way through the ship's corridors. They found the conference room already occupied by Captain David Reyes, the Endeavor's commander, along with several other senior staff members. Ambassador Zeltrix stood at the head of the table, his silver skin reflecting the harsh lights. "Thank you for coming," Zeltrix said. "I bring troubling news. The Galactic Council has been monitoring your crew since the Razeth incident. There is great concern about human adaptability." "Concern?" Captain Reyes asked. "We defended ourselves against pirates. What's concerning about that?" "The concern, Captain, is not what you did but how you did it. Your scientists fought like warriors. Your warrior negotiated like a diplomat. This defies all known patterns of species behavior. Many council members fear that humans cannot be trusted because they cannot be predicted." "That seems unfair," Sarah said. "We've done nothing wrong." "You have not. But the Council has existed for 12,000 years by maintaining order through predictability. Every species has its role, its function. The Velthari fight. The Mindori research. The Sanathi negotiate. Humans appear to do everything, which means no one knows what you will do next. Colonel Stone stepped forward. With respect, Ambassador, that sounds like the Council's problem, not ours. We can't help being what we are. I understand, and personally I find your species fascinating rather than threatening, but I am not the Council. The reason I called this meeting is to warn you. Tomorrow, you will be summoned before the full Council Assembly. Some members wish to classify humanity as a potential threat species. The consequences of such classification would be severe. What kind of consequences? Captain Reyes asked. Quarantine, restriction to your home system, denial of trade rights, possible military monitoring. Your species has much to offer the galaxy, but only if the Council decides you can be trusted. The room fell silent. Sarah felt a cold weight settle in her stomach. They had come to the stars hopping to learn, to explore, to share knowledge. Now they might be imprisoned in their own solar system because they were too flexible, too adaptable. What can we do? She asked. Zeltrix's 4 arms moved in a gesture Sarah had learned to recognize as uncertainty. You must convince the Council that human adaptability is not a threat but an asset. You must show them that beings who can be anything might choose to be allies, friends, partners in building a better galaxy. How you accomplish this, I cannot say. Diplomacy is supposed to be my specialty, yet I confess I have no idea how to make species understand something so foreign to their experience. Then maybe we don't use traditional diplomacy, Colonel Stone said thoughtfully. Maybe we use something else. What do you propose, Colonel? Miranda looked around the room at her fellow humans. Scientists who had fought pirates, soldiers who had written poetry, engineers who painted, pilots who composed music, a crew of 47 specialists who were all, in their own way, generalists. I propose we show them, she said. Not tell them, show them. Let them see who we really are, all the contradictions and complications. Let them watch a scientist become a warrior, become a diplomat, become a scientist again. If they can't understand us in theory, maybe they'll understand us in practice. That is a significant risk, Zeltrix warned. If they do not understand what they see, they may fear it even more. Maybe, Miranda agreed. But right now they fear what they imagine. That's always worse than reality. Let's give them reality instead. Captain Reyes nodded slowly. I think the Colonel's right. We've spent too much time trying to fit into their categories. Time to show them that categories are for organizing shelves, not people. The decision was made. Tomorrow, humanity would stand before the Galactic Council and reveal exactly what they were. Not warriors or scientists or diplomats, but all of these things and none of them. Something new. Something the galaxy had never seen before. Sarah finished her coffee and wondered whether they were about to make history or doom their species to permanent isolation. With humans, she reflected, it could easily be both. The council chamber was vast beyond human imagination. The Endeavor's crew had seen many impressive structures since arriving in galactic space, but nothing compared to this. The domed ceiling rose so high that clouds actually formed in its upper reaches, maintained by sophisticated environmental systems. Seating platforms for representatives of 300 species spiraled upward in concentric rings, each designed to accommodate the unique physical needs of its occupants. At the center of it all stood a circular stage where the accused, the honored, and the judged had stood for 12,000 years. Today, the humans stood there. Captain Reyes led his senior staff onto the platform. Dr. Sarah Chen walked beside Colonel Stone. Behind them came Lieutenant Akafer, Dr. Frost, Chief Engineer Yuki Tanaka, and Cultural Officer Dr. James Ape. 7 humans facing the judgment of a galaxy. High Counselor Vorn's crystalline voice echoed through the chamber. The Council recognizes the delegation from Earth. You have been summoned to address concerns regarding your species classification. Before we proceed, do you wish to make any statements?" Captain Reyes stepped forward. "Counselor, my crew and I thank the Council for this opportunity. We understand there are concerns about human adaptability. We hope to address those concerns directly." The floor recognizes Captain David Reyes. "You may proceed." Reyes took a deep breath. "I could give you a speech about peace and cooperation. I could promise that humans mean no harm to the Council or its member species. Those things would be true, but I suspect they wouldn't convince anyone. So instead, I'd like to offer something else. A demonstration." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. High Counselor Vorn's crystalline body flickered with curiosity. "What sort of demonstration?" "Let us show you who we are. Not through words, but through action. We request permission to address specific Council members directly, to respond to their concerns in whatever manner seems appropriate." War Chief Kreth rose from the Velthari section, his massive form casting shadows across nearby delegates. "I will begin. My concern is simple. These humans claim their scientists can fight like warriors. I say this is impossible. I say they survived the Razeth through luck, not skill. I challenge any human who disagrees to prove otherwise." The chamber went silent. Challenging a Velthari was no small matter. They were the most feared warriors in the galaxy, genetically engineered for combat over countless generations. No species had ever defeated them in single combat. Colonel Stone stepped forward, but Sarah put a hand on her arm. "No," Sarah said quietly. "Let me." "Sarah, you're a biologist." "That's the point." Sarah walked to the edge of the platform, facing War Chief Kreth across the vast chamber. "I accept your challenge, War Chief, but not in the way you expect. I am not a warrior, and I will not pretend to be one. I am a scientist who learned to fight when she had no other choice. If you want to understand humans, understand this. We don't become warriors because we want to. We become warriors because we have to." Kreth's mandibles clicked with what might have been amusement. "Pretty words, but words mean nothing without action. Face me in the challenge circle, human scientist. Show me what you are." "Name your terms." "Traditional Velthari single combat. First to yield or become unable to continue. No weapons but what we bring ourselves." Sarah nodded. "I agree." The challenge circle materialized in the center of the chamber, a ring of light marking the boundaries of the combat area. Sarah stepped inside, suddenly very aware of how small she was compared to the alien warrior now entering from the opposite side. Kreth stood over 2 meters tall, his 4 arms ending in claws designed by evolution and enhanced by engineering. His carapace was natural armor. His species had fought and won battles since before humanity had discovered fire. And Sarah Chen was a 53-year-old biologist who had taken self-defense classes on weekends. "Begin," the High Counselor announced. Kreth moved with terrifying speed, closing the distance between them in less than a second. Sarah didn't try to match him. Instead, she moved sideways, using the momentum of his charge against him. A technique from her Aikido training, applied instinctively. Kreth overshot, confused by an opponent who didn't meet force with force. "Interesting," he said, turning to face her again. "You do not fight like a warrior." "I'm not a warrior." "Then what are you?" "I'm a scientist." Sarah shifted her weight, watching Kreth's body language the way she would watch any animal. "And right now, you're my subject of study. 4 arms suggest you fight with overwhelming force. Carapace indicates you expect to take hits, not avoid them. You're used to opponents who try to match your strength. You cannot defeat me through observation." "No, but I can understand you through it." Kreth attacked again, faster this time. Sarah twisted away from one set of claws, took a glancing blow from another, and somehow ended up behind him. She struck at a joint in his leg, a spot she'd noticed seemed slightly less armored than the rest. Kreth stumbled. "How did you know?" he demanded. Your species has a natural weak point at the joint between your femur and tibia. I published a paper on comparative xenobiology 3 years ago. Chapter 7 dealt specifically with Velthari anatomy. The council chamber had gone completely silent. No one had ever seen a Velthari stumble in combat. They fought for another 10 minutes. Sarah took many hits, each one leaving bruises that would hurt for weeks, but she refused to fall, refused to yield, refused to stop analyzing her opponent even as he battered her across the circle. And slowly, impossibly, she began to find patterns, ways to move that minimized damage, strikes that could actually hurt through all that armor. She wasn't winning, she couldn't win, but she wasn't losing either. Finally, Kreth stepped back and raised all 4 arms in a gesture of pause. Enough. I haven't yielded, Sarah said, breathing hard. You don't need to. The Velthari warrior's voice had changed. The contempt was gone, replaced by something that sounded almost like respect. I understand now. You are not a warrior human, but you became one just enough, just long enough. You studied me even as we fought. You adapted even as you bled. This is what you meant. Yes. Kreth turned to face the council. I withdraw my objection. These humans are not pretending to be something they are not. They are exactly what they claim, beings who can become what they need to be. I have never faced such an opponent. I hope to never face them in true war because I do not know how to predict what they would become. Sarah limped back to her crew, where Dr. Frost immediately began treating her injuries with a portable medical kit. Colonel Stone squeezed her shoulder. That was either the bravest or the stupidest thing I've ever seen, Miranda said. Both, Sarah replied, both at once. Isn't that what we're trying to demonstrate? High Counselor Vorn spoke again. War Chief Kreth has withdrawn his objection. Are there other concerns the humans would like to address? A Mindori representative floated forward, her crystalline form smaller and more delicate than the High Counselor's. I am Scholar Prime Veloria. My concern is different. The Mindori are pure scientists. We have dedicated our entire existence to the pursuit of knowledge. We have heard that human soldiers dabble in research. This troubles us. Science requires absolute dedication. How can a warrior contribute to scientific advancement? Lieutenant James Ockhaffer stepped forward. He was a tall man with kind eyes and the build of someone who had spent years in military training. I believe you're referring to my recent paper on quantum field theory. Yes, a soldier writing about quantum mechanics is absurd. You cannot possibly understand the depths of such complex science. With respect, Scholar Prime, I've understood those depths since I was 12 years old. Ockhaffer's voice was calm, confident. I discovered a passion for physics in school. I devoured every book I could find, taught myself mathematics far beyond my grade level. By the time I was 16, I was corresponding with professors at major universities about theoretical frameworks that hadn't been fully explored. Then why did you become a soldier? Because my family couldn't afford university. Military service paid for my education. I served for 10 years while simultaneously earning my doctorate in physics. I killed enemies of my country on 3 different continents. I also published papers that helped advance our understanding of quantum entanglement. I am both things, Scholar Prime. Neither one diminishes the other. Veloria's crystalline form pulsed with confusion. This is illogical. The mental framework required for combat is completely different from the mental framework required for science. Aggression versus contemplation. Action versus thought. Is it? When I'm in combat, I calculate trajectories, assess environmental factors, predict enemy movements based on observed patterns. When I'm doing physics, I attack problems aggressively, refuse to accept defeat and keep fighting until I find answers. The skills transfer, Scholar Prime. They always have. Prove it. Prove that a warrior's mind can contribute to pure science. Solve a problem that has eluded our best researchers. Ockhaffer smiled. What problem did you have in mind? What followed was perhaps the strangest academic debate in galactic history. Veloria presented a mathematical paradox that had troubled Mindori scientists for centuries. HFY listened carefully, asked several clarifying questions, then began to work through the problem out loud, his military training evident in his systematic, methodical approach. 45 minutes later, he had not only solved the paradox, but had opened entirely new avenues of inquiry that the Mindori had never considered. Your error, he explained to the stunned Scholar Prime, was in assuming that the variables had to be addressed in sequence. Military tactics taught me to think about simultaneous actions, about flanking maneuvers and coordinated strikes. I applied that same thinking to your mathematical framework. Instead of solving parts in order, I solved them all at once, letting the solutions support each other like soldiers in formation. Veloria was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, her crystalline form began to chime. It was the Mindori equivalent of applause. I withdraw my objection, she said, and I invite Lieutenant HFY to collaborate with the Mindori Science Academy on future research. A warrior's perspective may prove valuable indeed. The day continued. Each concern raised by council members was met with demonstration rather than argument. Dr. Elizabeth Frost showed how scientific thinking enhanced her combat training. Chief Engineer Tanaka revealed that he had once been a professional musician, and that his understanding of harmony and rhythm helped him design more elegant mechanical systems. Cultural Officer Ape, an anthropologist, demonstrated how his study of ancient human conflicts had made him a more effective peacekeeper on alien worlds. One by one, the objections fell away, not because the humans argued well, but because they showed the truth of what they were: scientists who could fight, warriors who could think, diplomats who could do both, not masters of any single discipline but competent in all of them, adaptable, flexible, human. As the session drew to a close, Ambassador Zeltrix rose to address the chamber. I have watched today's proceedings with great interest. I must confess that I began this day uncertain about humanity's place in our galaxy. I end it certain of only one thing: we have much to learn from these beings who refuse to be categorized. High Counselor Vorn flickered with light that suggested deep thought. The Council will now vote on humanity's classification, all those in favor of designating Earth as a threat species. A handful of lights appeared in the upper tiers. Sarah counted 12, maybe 15. All those in favor of full membership with standard privileges. The chamber exploded with light, hundreds of species voting in favor. The humans had won. The motion carries, Vorn announced. Earth and its humans are hereby granted full membership in the Galactic Council. Welcome to the community of civilizations. The Endeavor's crew embraced each other, tears flowing freely. They had done it. They had shown the galaxy what humanity really was, and the galaxy had accepted them. But Sarah, even in her joy, felt a weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. They had set a precedent today. Every human who came after them would be expected to embody the same adaptability, the same flexibility, the same refusal to be limited by categories. She hoped they were ready for it. She hoped humanity could live up to what they had promised. Looking at her crewmates, seeing the determination in their eyes, she thought maybe they could. 3 years had passed since the Council vote. In that time, the human presence in galactic space had grown from a single ship to dozens. Scientists explored alien worlds. Traders established commerce routes. Diplomats negotiated agreements that benefited all parties. Humanity was fulfilling its promise, becoming whatever the galaxy needed them to be. But today, all of that was at risk. Dr. Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Endeavor, watching the viewscreen with growing horror. The Void Walkers had come. They were a species from beyond known space, creatures of pure malevolence that consumed entire civilizations for reasons no one understood. The galaxy had thought them a myth, a legend used to frighten children. The debris field floating before them proved otherwise. 3 council worlds had fallen in the past week. Billions dead. Whole cultures erased. "Report," Captain Reyes ordered, his voice tight with barely controlled emotion. "The Void Walker fleet is holding position near the Nexus Gate," Lieutenant HFY replied from the tactical station. "Approximately 200 vessels of unknown configuration. They've destroyed everything we've sent against them. Velthari war fleets, Mindori science vessels, Sanathi diplomatic ships. Nothing works. The Council has ordered a full evacuation of all nearby systems," Colonel Stone added. She had aged in the past 3 years, her hair now completely gray, but her eyes remained sharp. "They're retreating, Captain. The galaxy's greatest civilizations are running away." Sarah felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her. She was no longer just a scientist or just a warrior. Over the past 3 years, she had become something else entirely, a symbol of human adaptability. Representatives from dozens of species had sought her counsel, wanting to understand how humans did what they did. Now all of that was being put to the ultimate test. "We're not retreating," Reyes said quietly. "Are we?" The crew exchanged glances. In their eyes, Sarah saw fear, certainly, but she also saw something else. Determination. Resolve. The same stubborn refusal to accept defeat that had characterized humanity since its earliest days. "No, sir," HFY said, "we're not." "Then what do we do? Our weapons can't penetrate their shields. Our shields can't stop their weapons. The Velthari threw their best warriors at them and achieved nothing. The Mindori analyzed them and found no weaknesses. The Sanathi tried to negotiate and were ignored." Sarah stepped forward. An idea was forming in her mind, wild and dangerous and probably impossible. But that was what being human meant, wasn't it? Attempting the impossible because no one had told you it couldn't be done. "The Velthari fought them like warriors," she said slowly. "The Mindori studied them like scientists. The Sanathi approached them like diplomats. Each species used its specialty, its particular approach to problems." "And each failed," Stone observed. "Exactly. Each failed because they only used one approach. What if the solution requires all approaches simultaneously?" "Explain," Reyes ordered. Sarah moved to the main display, her hands flying over the controls as she pulled up sensor data from the destroyed fleets. "Look at the Velthari engagement. They attacked in standard formations, using conventional weapons. The Void Walkers destroyed them with overwhelming force. But look here." She highlighted a moment in the recording. When a damaged Velthari ship changed its approach, when it stopped fighting like a warrior ship and started making erratic maneuvers, the Void Walkers had trouble tracking it. "They're programmed for conventional responses," HFY said, understanding dawning. "They expect enemies to behave predictably." "Now look at the Mindori engagement." Sarah pulled up different data. Their science vessels tried to analyze the Void Walker technology, passive observation. They were destroyed without even knowing what hit them. But one ship at the last moment fired its research probes directly at the enemy. They weren't weapons, but the Void Walkers reacted to them as if they were. Their shields shifted, creating momentary gaps. "They can be surprised," Stone said. "They expect scientists to observe, not attack." "And the Sanathi," Sarah showed the final engagement. "They broadcast peaceful greetings, standard diplomatic protocols, ignored completely. But when one ship started transmitting combat frequencies mixed with diplomatic signals, the Void Walkers hesitated, just for a moment, as if they couldn't categorize what they were facing." Captain Reyes was nodding now, seeing where Sarah was heading. "They don't understand adaptability. They categorize threats and respond accordingly. Warriors get warrior responses. Scientists get scientist responses. Diplomats get ignored. But if we're all three at once, we might just confuse them long enough to find a real weakness." It was a desperate plan, a human plan. The kind of thing no other species in the galaxy would even consider, because no other species could do what humans did. They began preparations immediately. The Endeavour alone couldn't face a fleet of 200, but in the past 3 years, other human ships had arrived in galactic space. When Captain Reyes sent out the call for volunteers, 37 vessels answered. Research ships, cargo haulers, personal yachts. None of them were warships, but all of them were crewed by humans. "We'll coordinate our approach," Reyes explained during the fleet briefing. "But once we engage, I want everyone to be unpredictable. Scientists, I want you fighting. Soldiers, I want you analyzing. Diplomats, I want you disrupting their communications with the most confusing messages you can devise. Don't be one thing, be everything." The human fleet moved toward the Void Walker position. On the bridge of the Endeavour, Sarah stood beside Colonel Stone. Both women were armed. Both had scientific instruments at their stations. Both were prepared to negotiate if the opportunity arose. "Scared?" Stone asked quietly. "Terrified, you?" "Same, but that's never stopped us before." The Void Walkers reacted to their approach exactly as expected, categorizing them as threats and preparing standard responses. Sarah watched their formations shift on the tactical display. "They're treating us like a military fleet," HFY reported. "Then let's not be one," Reyes ordered. "All ships begin Phase 1, make them guess." The human fleet scattered, each ship pursuing its own seemingly random course. Some accelerated toward the enemy. Others retreated. Some began broadcasting scientific data. Others transmitted music, poetry, mathematical puzzles. The Endeavour itself started transmitting a continuous loop of human historical footage mixed with star charts and recipes for chocolate chip cookies. On the tactical display, the Void Walker formation began to waver. "They don't know how to respond," Sarah said, amazed. "They're trying to categorize us, but we don't fit any category." "Phase 2, Reyes ordered. "Attack with everything that isn't a weapon." Research probes launched toward the enemy fleet. Mining charges, communication satellites, medical drones, cargo containers. Anything and everything the human ships carried was repurposed as a weapon, exactly as Sarah had once repurposed probes against the Razeth. The Void Walkers' shields flickered, unable to determine which objects were threats and which were harmless. In the gaps, human weapons found their marks. "We're hurting them," HFY reported, surprise evident in his voice. "Not much, but we're actually hurting them." But it wasn't enough. The Void Walker fleet was too large, too powerful. For every ship they damaged, 10 more closed in. Human vessels began taking hits. The Endeavour shuddered as enemy fire struck its shields. "We need something more," Sarah said. "Something they've never seen before." "Like what?" She didn't know. She racked her brain, trying to find an answer. What could humans do that would completely shatter the Void Walker's ability to categorize them? Then it hit her. "Captain, I need to broadcast on all frequencies, to the entire fleet and to the Void Walkers." Reyes hesitated only a moment before nodding. "Do it." Sarah's voice went out across the void, reaching every human ship and every Void Walker vessel. "My name is Dr. Sarah Chen. I'm a scientist, a warrior, and a diplomat. 3 years ago, I stood before the Galactic Council and showed them what humans are. Today, I show you the same thing." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "You think you understand us. You've categorized us as threats to be eliminated, but you're wrong. We're not threats. We're not warriors or scientists or diplomats. We're all of those things and none of them. We're something you've never encountered before. We're human." The Void Walker fleet had stopped firing. Every vessel hung motionless in space, as if Sarah's words had frozen them in place. "I know you can understand me," Sarah continued. "Whatever intelligence guides you, it's sophisticated enough to recognize patterns. So recognize this pattern. We will not be categorized. We will not be predicted. We will not be destroyed. Because every time you think you understand what we are, we'll become something else." A single Void Walker ship broke formation and approached the Endeavor. Sarah felt her heart hammering in her chest. This was either the bravest or the stupidest thing she had ever done, probably both. The ship drew alongside, close enough that Sarah could see its strange, organic hull, its pulsing systems that seemed somehow alive. And then a voice came through the communication system, cold, ancient, confused. "What are you?" Sarah smiled. It was the question she had been waiting for. "We're human," she said, "and we'd like to talk." The negotiations lasted for 17 days. Sarah slept perhaps 4 hours total, surviving on coffee, determination, and the strange exhilaration that came from doing the impossible. The Void Walkers, it turned out, were not monsters. They were a machine intelligence, created billions of years ago by a species long extinct. Their purpose had been simple: eliminate threats to their creators. But their creators were gone, and the machines had continued their mission without understanding that the threat no longer existed. They had never encountered a species they couldn't categorize. Every civilization they had faced fit neatly into boxes: warriors to be destroyed, thinkers to be eliminated before they could devise countermeasures, diplomats to be ignored. Humans broke their programming simply by refusing to be one thing. "We can rewrite their core directives," Dr. Elizabeth Frost reported after days of working with Void Walker systems. "Give them a new purpose. They don't have to destroy, they can protect instead." "Can we trust them?" Captain Reyes asked. "We can teach them," Sarah said. "The same way we taught the Council what humans are. Show them, not tell them. Help them understand that categories are limitations, not truths." It took months of work. Human scientists studied Void Walker technology while human soldiers stood guard and human diplomats facilitated communication. All three roles often occupied by the same individuals. The Void Walkers watched, learned, and slowly began to change. 1 year after the confrontation, the machines who had destroyed 3 worlds became the galaxy's most dedicated peacekeepers. They patrolled the borders of known space, protecting civilizations from external threats. And they did it not through destruction but through adaptation, learning from the humans who had shown them another way. Sarah Chen stood before the Galactic Council once more. The chamber was packed, representatives from every member species present to witness this moment. 1 year ago, High Counselor Vorn said, humanity faced a threat that had defeated every species in this chamber. You did not retreat. You did not fight in conventional ways. You did what only humans can do. You adapted. You became what the situation required, and in doing so you saved us all. The council chamber erupted in the varied sounds of 300 species expressing gratitude. Clicks and whistles and chimes and roars, all blending into a symphony of appreciation. In recognition of this achievement, Vorn continued, the Council has voted unanimously to grant Earth a permanent seat on the High Council itself. You will help guide the future of our galaxy, bringing your unique perspective to every challenge we face. Sarah accepted the honor on behalf of her species, but her mind was already elsewhere. The Void Walker crisis had been resolved, but she knew it wouldn't be the last challenge humanity faced. There would always be new threats, new problems, new situations that required adaptation. After the ceremony, she found Colonel Stone, now retired from military service and serving as the human ambassador to the Mindori Science Academy. The 2 women who had once been strangers on a small research vessel had become dear friends over the years. "You look thoughtful," Miranda observed. "I'm thinking about the future. What comes next for humanity out here?" "Same thing that's always come next. New challenges, new opportunities. We'll face them the way we always have. By becoming whatever we need to be." Miranda smiled. "Exactly. That's what we do. That's what we've always done. It's why a poet became a soldier, became a diplomat. It's why a biologist became a warrior, became a negotiator. We don't limit ourselves to one path because we don't have to. Sarah looked out the viewport at the vast galaxy beyond. 300 civilizations, each with its own strengths and limitations. And humanity, the newcomers, the adaptable ones, finding their place among the stars. Lieutenant Okafor had been appointed to the Mindori Science Academy, where his unique perspective was revolutionizing theoretical physics. Dr. Frost had taken command of a new research vessel, combining scientific exploration with defensive capabilities. Captain Reyes was training a new generation of human officers who would carry their adaptability to every corner of explored space. And Sarah herself. She had decided to return to her original work, xenobiology, but now she studied alien life with the eyes of someone who had fought battles and negotiated peace treaties. Her research was richer for it, deeper for it. She understood life in ways she never could have before her transformation. "The galaxy still doesn't fully understand us," she said to Miranda. "Even after everything, they still try to categorize us. Scientists, warriors, diplomats, as if those are separate things. Maybe they'll learn, or maybe they won't. It doesn't really matter, does it? We know what we are, that's enough." Sarah nodded slowly. They knew what they were. Not specialists bound to single paths, but generalists capable of walking any road. Not masters of any particular skill, but competent in all skills. Not limited by categories, but freed by their absence. Earth had sent scientists who became warriors and warriors who became diplomats. It had sent humans, with all their contradictions and complications and impossible adaptability. And the galaxy would never be the same. In the years to come, humanity would face many more challenges. Some would require scientific brilliance. Some would require martial prowess. Some would require diplomatic finesse. And humans would meet each challenge by becoming whatever they needed to be, just as they always had. Because that was the human gift. Not intelligence or strength or charm, though they had measures of all three. The gift was simpler and more profound. The ability to change, to adapt, to refuse to be limited by expectations or categories or roles. Sarah Chen, scientist and warrior and diplomat, looked at the stars and smiled. The future was uncertain, full of dangers and opportunities in equal measure, but humanity was ready. They would become whatever they needed to be. They always did.